But what's the causes of them? Why do they happen? And what can we do to stop them? Let's break it down. And trust me, Earth is wilder than you think. So what is an earthquake? An earthquake is what happens when the ground suddenly shakes, and I mean pretty violently. But that's not magic. It's all about the energy that builds up in the underground and then release it all at once. Imagine bending a stick. At some point, it's gonna snap. And that's kind of what's happening inside the Earth. So, the Earth's surface is made out of giant slabs called tectonic plates. And these plates are always moving constantly. Even while I'm talking now, the tectonic plates are moving. And when tectonic plates move super slowly, like growing fingernail speeds, sometimes they might slide past each other, they might crash into each other, sometimes they might go away from each other. But for this example, when they get stuck between each other, because they're always trying to get, pressure starts building up. Like when I said when you have a stick and it's about to snap, boom, there goes your earthquake. The rock breaks and all that energy gets released, that's an earthquake. So this usually happens along something called the fault line. A good example would be the San Andreas fault line. That's in California. That's where a lot of earthquakes happen. And it's really cracks in the Earth's crust where like the two plates meet. So what does an earthquake feel like? If you ever felt one, you know, the ground starts shaking and stuff. Buildings wobble and everything rattles. And, you know, small earthquakes might feel like, you know, just a little light rattle, like, you know, you're just shaking a little bit. But big earthquakes, they can destroy buildings, cities, really. They can destroy this whole school behind me. So, how do we measure earthquakes? We measure earthquakes using the seismograph, and we rate their power on a scale called the Richter scale or the moment magnitude scale. Each number is 10 times stronger than the one before. That means the magnitude 5 quake is 10 times more powerful than a 0.5. A 7, that's a lot of trouble. So here's gonna be a little break it down for you. So a 3.0 and less when earthquakes, those kind of happen all the time, could be happening right now. You probably won't feel it going on. A 4 to a 5 feels like a strong shake, you know. Nothing crazy, but it could probably like break a car or something. Now, 6, 7, you probably get a few damage to like buildings or roads. And then 8 plus, that's massive. That's when the city started getting destroyed. So, where the earthquakes happen the most, that's along plate boundaries. And plate boundaries, these are zones where tectonic plates meet and where the earth is constantly stressed. So some of the biggest zones are like the Ring of Fire, which is the area around the Pacific Ocean that's shaped like a ring around the islands. And that's where lots of earthquakes happen. Now, California, the San Andreas Fault. And also places like Japan, Indonesia, Chile, and Turkey also get hit hard. But guess what? Earthquakes can happen everywhere, and even in places you never expect. So there's also aftershocks and tsunamis. So earthquakes aren't the only most damaging thing about, you know, this natural disaster. One earthquake is always the end to, you know, our troubles. Sometimes aftershock hits, which are small quakes that follow the big one. And then they can cause like still the same amount of damage. They can come minutes, hours later. And then if a quake happens under the ocean, you gotta watch out because that's how tsunamis form. And you hear about Japan with their tsunamis, that's mostly because there's so many earthquakes around there. So one of the deadliest ever tsunamis hit in Japan in 2004. And it was caused by a 9.1 earthquake, and it hit 14 different countries. So how can we predict earthquakes? The scary truth is, we can't fully be 100% sure on when earthquakes are gonna happen. But scientists can tell when they're likely, but not exactly. So there are times where we can get surprisingly hit by an earthquake. So what do you do during an earthquake? Because it's such a confusing topic. So if you're ever in one, remember, drop, cover, and hold on. So you gotta drop to your hands and knees. You gotta cover your head under a table or desk. And you gotta hold on until the shaking stops. Don't run outside, and don't get on a tall building because it will come crashing down. So here's the deal. Earthquakes are, you know, formed by tectonic plates grinding together. The release buildup releases in a massive burst. They could be tiny, or they could be city-shaking disasters. And while we can't stop them, we can understand and definitely prepare for them. The ground under your feet is not as still as you think. The earth is always moving, always, and it's always changing as well. And earthquakes are a reminder that this planet is indeed alive. If you learned something new, subscribe and hit that like button. Drop a comment with your biggest question about earthquakes, and subscribe for more earth-shaking science.